Good Wednesday, everyone. I hope you're having a good day wherever you are in the world, especially here in America, the homeland. Say the Iran war is, I don't really classify it as a war personally, but we'll just say war for what it's worth. Anyway, that's become more and more as it seems like a clusterfuck as time has gone on. Now, I'm not jaded, I'm not ignorant, and I'm not stupid. There's a reason why air power and air power alone, never in the history of the world, except maybe Yugoslavia, the only time I can ever think about it, think of a situation, has anything been solved by just flying jets around in the sky, dropping bombs on people. You always end up having to have boots on the ground. Why is there no boots on the ground? Because Donald Trump said he would never put boots on the ground. That was his campaign promise. Right along with the whole thing, we're not going to war. Anything can change because wars can and sometimes are of necessity more than they are choice. That being said, I got to thinking about this because I look at all these fake YouTubers online that do these fake news shows today. They think of themselves as the source of great information. People think of them as great information, but they're not, and it's also not news. Reporting the same thing every day, an F-15 dropped a bomb somewhere in Iran, that just becomes everyday reality. That's not newsworthy. The fact of the matter is, though, I see this often pop up in the comment box. When is this, when's the war going to end? What's it going to take to end the war? Well, I'll tell you what probably would end the war. And that is this. If Iran agrees to allowing the Hormuz Strait to go back to 100% operational the way it was all throughout its history. In other words, you don't impede the flow of world commodities, oil, fertilizer, commodities in general. When Iran does that, I think Trump will send the Navy home. I mean, there's a lot of bluster for all the nuclear this or the nuclear that, but I don't even think that really matters to them at this point. What matters to them at this point is political victory, which is not to be fighting. I think if you were to bring the Hormuz Strait back to its normal peaceful ways, that would bring an end to it. But here's the other thing that happened in the last 5 days or so. The Houthis, which are in Yemen on the other side, if you will, they threaten now to close down the Red Sea. And they're like Iran. They really don't have a navy per se. I suppose if they have enough anti-ship missiles, which I know they do have some from Iran, they could probably maybe do it. It's hard to see it without a navy, but I mean, supposedly, right? It's not the same thing, in my opinion, though, when you say you're going to close down the strait, you talk all big and tough, but all you're really doing is blowing up ships and sinking them. That doesn't seem like the same thing as a traditional blockade, right? Anyways, here's where I think this becomes problematic if you're an American and if you're an American soldier. I can actually see ground troops possibly coming if Red Sea ends up getting closed down by Houthis. Because then all suddenly you can't get supplies out of the Hormuz Strait and you can't get supplies out of the Red Sea. And that's a big problem. Like if you think, let's just say, these are my fictitious numbers. If you say the Hormuz Strait is 20 or 40% of the world's oil supply flows through it, okay, and it's effectively shut down right at the moment, and then you, on the other end of this, just right across the way, right, the Red Sea is now closed down, and you add the two together, now you're looking at maybe 40 or 50% of the world's oil effectively stopped flowing. Okay, well, that starts really hurting the world. I mean, America may be not so badly hurt, but obviously we still see the gas prices in our country go up, right? Because yeah, we may produce a lot of oil, whatnot, but we sell most of our oil not domestically but overseas to other partners. It becomes a problem. And the simple mathematic, the cost, the cost equation to all this is, can you allow for that to happen? I don't know if you can, because most countries, especially if you're just looking at the Western world dynamic, which basically we're talking about Europe, that really cripples Europe's ability for energy. And I can't imagine that having the Red Sea and the Hormuz closed down, that they would allow that to stand. I would actually think that brings the very small percent chance of ground forces to all suddenly opening it up. Now, in a perfect world, you would just have the Muslim armies build their own Muslim coalition with ground forces and invade Iran, and that would be it. The problem is, Muslims don't get along very well with one another, right? There's different sects. They're all the same, but they all kind of like Catholics versus Assemblies of God. Muslims are just in their own world, right? They believe in world domination. That's essentially the Quran doctrine. The Quran doctrine is Islamic domination of the world. That might be the only thing they actually agree on, right? Because then when you start breaking it down into different Muslim sects, the Alawites or the Shia and so on, so like then they start getting a little bit gapped out in some of their more bigger theology difference, if you will. But in a perfect world, that's what should happen, right? I guess the bottom line on this is all these mega projects over the last half decade that all these countries have been building, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and Kuwait, and all these countries building pipelines this way or that way, or building a seaport here versus there. That was all basically in case Iran did what they're doing right now, closing the Hormuz Strait down. The problem is a lot of those pipelines flowed into the Red Sea. And the other problem is a lot of the modern day ships can't fit through the Suez Canal.